So it's a perfect time to renew, reconnect with that motivation. So just take a moment. As you come back, you can close your eyes lightly. Think about one of the greatest wishes you could have. One of the greatest prayers you could have in this time. This idea of unlimitedly being there for others, for all beings, actually, all beings, regardless of whether you like what they're saying and agree with them or don't, regardless of what they look like, how they help you or harm you, to have that expansive, unlimited capacity to benefit all living beings. Put your mind in that place for a moment, imagining what that could be like and directing your motivation in that way if you like. So feel free to open your eyes. I'd like to start with Lisa. Lisa, can you speak? Can we hear you speak? Because you had a question and you wrote it, you just wrote you had a question in the chat. So are you, oh, there you are.
Yeah, hi. How are you?
Good. Lovely to see you. So
Yeah,
please, I wanted to take your question.
So I'm a little confused on how to word it. So it goes back to, how to fix certain karmas in your life. I feel like there's like one or two categories in my life that, started off, being, I guess, good to me, good for me, and then got bad as I got older and everything. Like I didn't have any luck, or it wasn't, it just didn't feel like it was meant to be, or it just wasn't, I failed at it, or whatever the situation was. I don't know if that falls under the karma category, or if it's things I'm doing in those one or two categories of my life that used to be good and no longer are good.
Yes, so once again, if this is Tibetan Buddhist belief, if everything is a result of a preceding cause, which Tibetan Buddhism says that is the flow of life, there's a cause and effect relationship with everything. So everything we think, see, and do has an effect in the future. So all of it would be related to your karma. So it's all connected there in karma of what your activities are. To know the distinct cause, you'd need a highly realized being to directly say, this is why this didn't work for you, or this is why this is working. What's best for us to do, what I find the most effective thing for us, is to assess our own lives and what's happening. If you're noticing, and I give an example of, we have habits, correct? And we have certain habits, and you know that from some habits, it doesn't work well. I end up, by the end of the habit, I have to note, I don't like how I'm feeling. And then there's other habits we do that I note and observe at the end. How do I feel in the meditation session? And I notice that I feel pretty good. So from that, it's helpful to check your own mind, and you get to know your own mind. And I give an example in So years ago, before I was a nun, when I had relationships, intimate relationships, and I was with somebody, and I noticed each relationship got a little bit better. And I learned a little bit in each one. But I still had this one underlying major mistake I was making, this habit. That was how I did relationships, and it wasn't a very healthy habit. And then finally, this one relationship I was in, the habit reared its head, behavior from my side, and the person I was with suddenly abruptly left the house and said, I'm leaving. I'm done with, which was really startling for me that, whatever this behavior was, they had had enough. And I kind of thought they were just leaving momentarily, and then I saw their car left, they drove away, and it really alarmed me that they were ready to just walk out. And it was great for me because it really gave me this wake up of enough. It was actually a very fortunate thing that this person, I mean, we remained friends after that, but it really shook me up enough to say, I can't continue this way. Like, something in me came up when I made this little commitment to myself right then and there when I noticed they had left and their car was gone. And I made this resolution in myself. I'm not going to do relationships like that again. I can't. It was too painful for everybody. Like, sometimes in your pain and your suffering, when you're on your knees, and sometimes literally, it's a powerful place if you can hang with it, if we can learn from it. And fortunately, I was able to learn from it, where I never did that quite that strongly in relationship again, like that, because my suffering was so pervasive. So part of that the seed and the bud of renunciation, which is the first principle of the path, renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness. This is how we progress along the fundamental path of our philosophy. But the bud of renunciation really comes from having compassion for yourself. So I reached suffering so badly and said, I can't do this anymore. I can't, stop. So does that speak to you at all of your own processes? And then looking at what is a healthier response to this? What do you think, Lisa? Is that?
Okay, sorry, I was muted. So it does, but how do you understand what the problem is? To become aware. How do you accept? You can't change or fix something you're not aware of. So
That's what I'm saying, is through practice and a meditation practice, I get to know my mind better. And for me, it was just a relationship. I was a new Dharma student then. This was many years ago. But, don't you have some self-awareness of yourself to check in to say, well, this is a project. Like, I know a woman, I give an example, this lovely woman, she's really awesome, I think. And she came on a pilgrimage to Nepal in 2018. It was great. And it was really challenging for her. So, and she came up to me right in the beginning when I could see there were going to be some issues with her on the pilgrimage. And she right away came up to me and said, I tend to sabotage things for myself. Like, she knew that about herself. You know how we know stuff like that about ourselves? So she was very aware, and she said right away, I know you told us to do these things to get ready. And she said, and I didn't do any of them. And she goes, that's just like that. She knew that was her pattern. So I really saluted her for being that self-aware to know. And then we were going to work with it, and we did. And she was awesome. She was totally awesome because she could be that transparent and that authentic. But the thing is, she really needed to work on the self-sabotage because that wasn't good enough anymore for her. So that's something for her, but she was aware of that. So I think we have levels of behavior. Don't you think that we are aware enough to say, I know I do that, and I'm working on it, but we don't change things overnight either. But if you mean what is the real root of the problem, and why is this particularly causing, you need a highly realized person to know the specifics of why this keeps happening. But I think behavioral wise, can you be somewhat familiar with some of that in your own life process?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does make sense somewhat. Yes. It's just, I guess what's bothering me or what I can't figure out is why do I feel like it was once good and then became more negative or more not good, you know? So I'm just was thinking that it should actually be the other way around. It starts off bad and then gets good.
No, karma doesn't work that way. Karma doesn't work that way. That's again why it's confusing for us. Like, so, and again, and this is kind of a half joke, but when you get into the Dharma, and I used to think, before I got into the Dharma, before I got into Buddhism, I lived and worked in Washington, D.C. in politics, thinking that was a way to bring about positive change in my environment, my community, on the planet, and worked for some people and some good people and like that. And then, and I volunteered on the side, and I had a pretty balanced life. I wasn't really meditating very much. I didn't know much about that, but I worked for good people, did a great job, good, good things. Then I volunteered on the side for the homeless, and great. And then I was working for an AIDS hospice, and, and felt like there was a nice balance of giving back and helping and things like that. And then I got into the Dharma later, and then I started working at Dharma centers where it's all consuming. You're living at a community, you're working there, very little time off, making very little money. And it was very tough. And there were a lot of meetings and community meetings, and it was just so overwhelming at one point. And I remember thinking, I used to be a good camper. Like, people liked me. I did all these good things. And so basically, when you start practicing, sometimes in Buddhism, it's like you have a clear water glass, but in the bottom is a layer of dirt, but the glass looks mostly clear, and you go, oh, it's my life. This looks pretty good. I have some things I'm working on, but for the most part, it's good. And then Dharma is when you put the stirrer in. So then you stir, and all the dirt comes up, and now my lovely clear water glass is all murky. So it's sometimes like that. You start practicing, and through that process, it purifies, and it accesses and brings up some of the dirt. So sometimes it does get more difficult until you can purify more, where you get to some of the glorious bliss that feels really good, and you see some progress in your mind. But with karma, there's no direct thing that this is going to ripen first, and now everything was good and now it's bad. And I would just look at what do you think, are there any behavioral traits that may have changed for you, that you started doing something differently? Are there any other people in your life that are no longer in your life that had positive influences? Are there some people in there that have negative influences? Have I gotten into any patterns right now that I kind of take for granted that started to take over my life that maybe are not so healthy? And then karma's at play, but beneath all of that. So sometimes you're just accessing something else that's making it go south a bit, like that. So you just try your best, like that.
All right. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you. Are there any other questions now from the break regarding the 10 non-virtues and how they imprint a bit from the base, the recognition, the deed, and the completion, how it becomes a more completed, heavier karma? Okay, we're going to go on. And I want to talk about the results. How do these 10 non-virtues, how does it result then if I have a completed karma? What happens? There's 3 different results of completed karma. 3 different results. And you have a ripened result that is the future rebirth. The future rebirth state you'll experience as a result of having the completed karma. You have results similar to the cause. They can be a couple different ways. They can be experiences similar to the cause, which I'll explain in a moment. Once the karma to reborn, let's say in a lower realm, has been exhausted, you'll take rebirth in an upper realm, but you might have some experiences similar to what caused you to take that rebirth, similar to the original actions. Then another way they ripen, as far as results similar to the cause, is actions similar to the cause. So once again, the karma might be exhausted that got you into a lower realm. You take rebirth in a better realm, but you still have an instinctive tendency to do the non-virtue again and again. The third way they ripen is environmental results. What sort of environment are you born into? What sort of experiences are you having in that place? Let me give you an example. Okay, killing. The ripened result, what kind of rebirth, is going to be a lower realm of existence. Okay, so Buddhism teaches, just as a quick review, and I know some of you are newer here, Buddhism teaches there are 6 realms of cyclic existence. In samsara, 6 realms of cyclic existence. 3 higher realms and 3 lower realms. Okay, the higher realms are human is the base of the higher realms. That's the best, most advantageous place from which to get enlightened, from which to become a Buddha, is the human realm, because we have a balance of leisure to be able to practice, to be able to work on our minds, and suffering in our existence that motivates us to want to become a Buddha, to want to achieve more with our minds, to be able to help others, especially on this path. Also in the upper realms are 2 God realms. One God realm is a jealous, fighting God realm that's very competitive with the higher God realm of hedonistic gods. Hedonistic gods are just experiencing pleasure all the time. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean it's a good realm to go to, the hedonistic God realm. What happens in the God realm is you're not enlightened. Yes, you do experience an enormous amount of pleasure, which we all would love. But what happens is, due to the pleasure, you're using up a lot of negative, you're using up a lot of positive karma, a lot of merit. And so you tend to then take a lower rebirth after that. You're not getting enlightened in that realm. Okay, it's still part of cyclic existence, samsara, which means to turn, to cycle. Okay, through birth, old age, sickness, and death. Those are the 3 higher realms, human and 2 God realms. The lower realms, the top of the lower realm is the animal realm, which is a realm with which we can interact with. Okay, and then there is a hungry ghost realm or craving spirit, and there are hell realms. So Buddhism does have hell realms, like the Catholics, okay? And some other methodologies. The animal realm, people will dispute, but the animal realm is consumed with lethargy, fear, and look at the animal realm. I know you may have an intelligent cat or dog, I'm aware of that, but our domestic pets are the peak of the animal realm. Really check up on the animal realm. It is rife with, most animals live in the sea, for one, and the insect realm is huge, as we know. So think about their existence. They mainly spend their time eating, sometimes killing to eat, sleeping, going to the bathroom, and making more animals. That's the animal realm. And there are animals that work for a living, and some of them work under horrible conditions. And look at the way animals, if you ever looked at the way animals eat, animals in the wild, how they're always looking around because something else might eat them. They say it's extreme terror if you're in the mind of the animal for 1 minute, you totally freak out. Wild animals, I mean. Okay. The hungry ghost realm, the realm below that, are craving spirits. They can actually hear the Dharma, but their realm is so consumed with hunger and thirst that they can't really practice Dharma like that. You get into this realm through intense dissatisfaction and desire, obsessive desire and things like that, never being satisfied with anything. The lowest realm are the hell realms, and Buddhism offers you a variety of hell realms, from the very, very hot and burning to the very, very cold and freezing. Sorry to inform you. And what gets you into the hell realms in general would be things like sadistic killing, horrible, negative, harmful mind states like that. Okay, so when we talk about killing, the ripened result could most probably be rebirth in a lower realm, one of those lower realms I mentioned. Results similar to the cause. Now, this is the second way. Results similar to the cause. Two ways these ripen. Experiences similar to the cause and actions similar to the cause. Experiences similar to the cause as a result of killing mean that later when I exhaust the lower rebirth, and that's the thing with the hell realms in Buddhism, in any of the realms, none of them are permanent. There's simply a temporary situation that you experience due to the karma that got you in, or due to the cause. When the cause gets exhausted by any suffering from the realm, you move out to a less suffering realm. Okay? But karma's intricate again. Because you have negative and positive karmas, it doesn't mean you necessarily go right up to the next realm. You might have some really strong virtue ripening that puts you back in a human realm really quickly. Okay? But if you, as a result of killing, once you take a human rebirth, let's say, okay, you may experience these experiences similar to the cause, meaning you may have a very short life. You may have a tremendous amount of ill health, many troubles, and no success in any of your activities. Could be as a result of killing. Actions similar to the cause mean an instinctive tendency, okay? I come out of the lower realms, but there's still some causes there of the killing karma. And in the human realm, I have a habitual tendency and ease to want to kill. This could be my niece or nephew that was happy to kill insects. This could be me when I was younger. I had no trouble killing insects like that. Kind of a natural thing. Must have been an instinctive tendency, again, coming in from another rebirth where I had an imprint of killing. Can I purify that in this life? I can try my best. I hope so. Because now what's interesting, I want to talk about the familiarity a little bit before we talk about the environmental results of killing, is just to give you an example, is when I mentioned my halt to killing insects, and I did it for years and years and years, and now it's been over 30 years. So about 10 years ago, I was running Milarepa Center in Vermont, and it's an area where there's not a lot of Buddhists. It's a beautiful area of northeastern Vermont. And in the summer, I was over at my neighbor's, and she's a lovely person, and there was an eagle's nest, a bald eagle's nest there, and a lot of us would come in the summer and would bring binoculars and we'd watch together, and it was a protected area. And so I was standing there next to her one summer night watching, the two of us seeing the eagle's nest, and they raised one baby like that, and there's mosquitoes. And so one of them landed on me, on my arm. But if you're in a Buddhist environment, at Buddhist centers, most people either will wear mosquito repellent, or they'll put the torches up with, calendula oil or whatever things repel mosquitoes. And if one lands on you, you just blow it off of you. You wouldn't ever swat a mosquito like that. Like right now, I'm very familiar with doing that. I would never, 30 some years not killing insects, haven't swatted a mosquito on me or anyone else in over 30 years. So I'm familiar with instantly. And some people where I live now look at me like I'm crazy, okay? So this neighbor standing next to me saw the mosquito on me and swatted it and killed it on me. And I was so alarmed. Initially, I was like, oh, like it was like murder to me. That's how much after 20 some years at that point that you can ingrain in your mind. So from me being comfortable as a child killing insects to fast forward, and this must have been, I'm going to say 40 years later of really not killing for, at that point, 20 some years, right? You can see it affected some sort of change in my behavior like that. So I'm not any great practitioner, again, I'm not any holy person, I'm an ordinary person like you, but you can institute these changes in your own consciousness. Absolutely possible. Absolutely possible. But what you have to do is get involved in your practice. Start to get to know your mind and your habits and things like that. Let me talk about environmental results of killing. This could be taking rebirth in a place where there is violence, war, many, many problems, and where food, drink, and medicine have little power. Because again, killing is taking life, so you could come back, environmental result, medicines I take are ineffective. And I know people like that on right now on Earth, where they take the medicine, it worked for this guy, it didn't work for them. Like that could be karmic result of killing. Let's look at stealing for a minute. The ripened result of all of these, practicing these non-virtues again and again, the ripened results are rebirth in a lower realm, okay? Unless we're purifying first, but the general ripened result is rebirth in a lower realm. Stealing, results similar to the cause, again, has experiences similar and action similar. Experience is similar. I'm poor. I have a lack of possessions. When I do have things, they're lost or stolen. Those could be experiences similar to the cause, a ripened result for stealing. And then action similar is I come back in a human realm, but I have a tendency to steal again. I don't see any problem with stealing like that. And it's interesting, instinctive tendencies. And when I mention the non-virtues, probably, like I said, each of you had one or two that popped up. And some of those one or twos may be things you just do every day and you don't really think it's a big deal. Okay. So, and I remember growing up, when I was in my 20s, I visited a friend. I forget, somewhere for a few days. I forget where we were, but she had a schoolhood friend with her, and somebody she had gone to school with, like that. And this woman in her 20s was a shoplifter. And interesting for me, I killed insects as a kid, and I lied as a teenager, right? I learned to lie as a teenager, but stealing was never my thing. I didn't have an imprint of stealing. It just wasn't a big thing for me. I would never think of shoplifting. When I was 4 years old, I stole a pack of juicy fruit gum from a pharmacy, and I just knew it was a bad thing to do, and I really never got into stealing again, like that. So she had this habit, and it was bizarre to me because we went into a big grocery store to get stuff for the weekend. We were together, all of us. There were like 4 or 5 of us. And I came out, and then she was in the van with us, and she opened her jacket, and she's like, look what I got. And I remember being very alarmed by that. So again, there's the instinctive tendency that she just, had to steal in the store. That's how she was going to go into the store. I never even went in the store with any thought of that. Didn't even occur to me to steal anything like that. A sexual misconduct, a result similar to the cause, the experience is similar, is you're unable to keep relationships, especially healthy relationships, and you quickly separate from your spouse, friends, family, employers, things like that. Actions similar to the cause are you have a tendency to be unfaithful and dishonest in relationships. And I mentioned before, environmental results of sexual misconduct is you can live or be born in a muddy, dirty place. And another environmental result of stealing is that you take birth or live in a barren place where nothing grows. Crops are easily destroyed. There's food shortages, terrible, terrible weather that doesn't support the growth of food, and your business ventures may fail. So I think you get the idea, right? Okay, should we look at one more? And let me ask you, if you can look at these results, what you think these results are. Okay. Is there any one of the other non-virtues you want to look at specifically? We have some of speech left and of mind. Anything you're curious, how does it ripen? How might it ripen? What interests you? Anybody? You can unmute and just mention, okay, wait a minute, what's a demon? I don't know what you mean by demon, a spirit or something? Jana, I'm not sure. Do you want to unmute and speak to us? Okay, anyway.
Yeah, my connection's unstable. You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Great.
I'm not sure, but a J, in Tibetan they say J. Like
like a spirit or something. Yeah, spirit could be a spirit.
Yeah, like Gurgyal, like what is that thing?
Something that harms like that. Sometimes they interfere like that.
No, in the 6 realms, like what is that thing?
It could be part of the hungry ghost realm, spirit realm. And there are some other spirits that mom is that I haven't really gotten an adequate answer of how somebody ends up in that kind of realm to disturb, but it could be part of the hungry ghost realm, the craving spirit realm, like that. Steve?
Yeah, I was going to ask about lying, but actually to me, almost lying, stealing, sexual misconduct, it almost could fall under the general banner of lying, kind of. They almost seem to be, they're interrelated,
Yeah.
Because if you look, because of sexual misconduct, you're lying to your partner.
That's right.
You're cheating, you're stealing, you're lying to other people. And then there's outright lying, fibbing, or telling lies. But I guess so for lying, what would be the consequences, the rebirth, that kind of thing?
So lying, obviously, you can take rebirth in a lower realm. Let's look at results similar to the cause. You have experiences similar to the cause. So experiences are, what happens around you as a result of lying. Any ideas about that? Like, do you remember the tale, Peter and the Wolf? So this was a kid who lied all the time. And when he finally told the truth, what happened?
He got eaten by the wolf.
Well, nobody believed him. They didn't believe him. So that's another consequence is others won't believe you. Okay, even when you tell the truth, they don't believe you. So if this is an issue for you, for any of you, where you have certain speech karma, do any of you have an issue where you don't feel people hear you? So there was a woman I worked with at one of our centers, very capable, bright woman. And I noticed that when she spoke at community meetings and staff meetings, everybody tuned out. They just didn't hear her. It was bizarre. And she noticed it as well. And she's like, this is my speech karma. So that's a result of gossip, where you're just idle chatter. People tune you out. But she didn't do that in this life. I didn't really notice her as a big gossip, but she said it must have come from past lives. And she got very clean about her speech. And it started shifting, it started changing. So again, with lying, others wouldn't believe you even when you tell the truth. And an action similar to the cause, you have a tendency to lie again and again. And then the environmental result is you live amongst people who cheat you and you can't find anyone to trust. Result of lying and deceit. But you're right, Steve, it flips into sexual misconduct because you're going to be lying to your partner, possibly. And it affects other things. With stealing, you're lying to somebody, I didn't take it. I don't know where your such and such is, So absolutely, they all kind of, several of them are interconnected like that. And divisive speech, again, causes you to live in an inhospitable environment where communication is difficult. That's the situation we found ourselves in at Vajrapani Institute, down a dirt gravel road. Talk about a rocky road. And so we kind of looked at that, and then we were told by a teacher, this is a result of harsh, divisive speech. So we started, 4 years, we held group counseling sessions to get clean with our speech. And we got really clean. We did a really great job. And then as a result of that, somebody from the county came and put $250,000 of work from their side into smoothing out our road. How about that? Boy, was I a believer in karma at that point. So the thing is with karma is Vajrapani has a very challenging road. It's been that way for years. You can do all of your external work on the road. I called the county, this is when I was director, to have them do their part of the road, which was hit or miss. I motivated our community members and members to write letters to the county that the road was damaging their car, the county part that the county was responsible for. We did that. I raised money so that we could improve the road with our own funds. I did all those things. But until we got good with our speech, was the road not nearly transformed as much as when we did the internal work. So a lot of our work on the planet, I find, is internal, external. Like you can't just do the external work and think something will change. I have to really look at the internal mechanisms of my mind and what is contributing to what's happening, as much as we can notice. Okay, let me just look at, it's easier if you can unmute, or maybe Snehi can look at the comments at times. I don't. So a compulsory addictive habit of spending money and bringing misery to the family. I don't know specifically, Maureen, how that would ripen in the next life. Of spending a lot of money probably could cause you, if it brings misery to people, could cause you to be poor in future lives, like that. And judgmental thoughts, jealousy, blame. Linda, what do you mean? Do you have a question about that? Do you want to unmute and tell us what? Okay, she's not there.
I'm coming. Here I am. Sometimes it's not my techno knowledge that really bothers me. No, there seems to be like a repeated action, I guess, and something I don't know if I've developed in my DNA, but walking away from someone that I can be like really close friends, or thinking everything, making a conversation where everything is very pleasing. But then after separation, walking away from them is, I can find some reason that I don't like them, or I become judgmental about the way that they're talking or not talking. And to me, what I can see is that perhaps there's some kind of fear of a closer attachment or something, you know, because I've been through all those things, but I don't know, I don't like it. It causes me pain and suffering, and I don't like it. So I don't know.
I think what's really common is many of us have negative judgments. And I also find the United States of America happens to be, we have a blessing and a curse of being an enormously opinionated society. So our whole freedom of speech issue, which is great, we can express anything we want, and we're a fiercely independent culture, as you know. So not everybody here is from the States or living in the States now, but as a result, I find, because I've traveled the world and live around the world at times, we overexpress our opinions. There's some cultures I know, rarely would someone express their opinion. So we are very free to express, and that has a really beneficial side. It also has a negative side. And what happens is, if you have influences around you of a lot of people being negative and expressing negatively, I found it has an influence on me. And then I think it's perfectly okay to get into negative judgments. It's very common, and I become familiar with it. But what I notice after that, and I used to do that a lot because that was how I was raised, not that anybody was bad, it's just that that was kind of part of the culture I was raised in. And later, as I grew up, I kind of thought, I don't really, you know, I just had a negative judgment in my mind, and I'm not that comfortable with that more and more. So I kind of made a little deal with myself to try to be more observant of my mind around that, look at when I would judge negatively, look at how I felt, and slowly I've been able to curtail that. So I think it's brilliant that you're watching it and observing it. And if you're noticing you're not comfortable, now an antidote to jealousy is rejoicing. And rejoicing is one of the easiest ways we create virtue or positive imprints. Rejoicing. And again, I wasn't a natural rejoicer because of this influence of negative blame and criticism and judgment. So what I found is when I'd hear something good from someone, or they got this, or they got the job, or they went on that trip, and initially it was a little bit of pain of like, why did they get to go to Hawaii? You know? But so I heard about rejoicing and I practiced it, right? You've heard me talk about this before. I practiced it, meaning, honestly, I practiced it like this, like I at least got the face in the right position, right? But I was really like, great. Like I didn't feel it, but I got the face in the right position, right? But then fast forward a year or two and somebody says they're taking this trip or doing that. Great. And now when I hear something, it has automatically worked in me. It's layered a level of familiarity and I go, wonderful. How great. And I'm much happier. I've also noticed how much happier I am and how much that bubble of positivity goes out from me. So again, it's a process. Know this is a process, spiritual practice. You're not going to change your mind in 2 hours. It's not possible. This is a process, okay? So Linda, is that helpful?
That's very helpful to me. And I see something that you mentioned, that's the way that you were raised. And I saw that so much from where I was as a child. And it would really, or my growing up and spending more and more time with my darling mom, it was like every time I was with her, you know, she'd be with other people. It was just like wonderful. Everything about them was all good. And then there would be this tendency to downplay them, downgrade them, or talk about them behind their back. And so I thought, oh my God, I'm getting to be just like my mother. I said, you know, bless her little heart.
Yeah, that's very common. It's very common. So spiritual practice is about observing so we can wake up. A lot of the world is going around unconsciously. That's not what we're doing with spiritual practice. We're specifically looking, and what happens is you're specifically sometimes looking at something very uncomfortable in yourself. It's not about blaming these other people. I don't blame my parents for how they raised me. They did the best they could with the tools they had. I'm so grateful to them. Unbelievable to give me this life, right? When I was younger and more unconscious, I blamed them, sure. Just that's what everybody did. But as I got older, I really appreciated and realized how amazing the life they gave me.
Right.
So slowly and then in spiritual practice, once again, karma is about taking responsibility for my mind and my actions.
Right.
Karma is about taking responsibility. We have to. So what I've learned to do is look at those environmental factors that I created. I made a deal to come back to this sort of family to do the work. And the more and the better I do the work, the easier and the nicer my future lives are going to be. It may show up in this life, but not necessarily. But I'm setting up for something positive to come up for future lives. So again, we have to take responsibility. What's going on in my mind? How does it feel? And what are the practices I can participate in that are going to help me? So let me just look at a few of these other comments, and then Sheila Richardson, unskillful speech isn't just verbal in context. Unskillful speech and gossip is usually verbal in context, as far as I know. Social media, well, yeah, in social media, you can post things, absolutely, that's full of negativity. And when too much sniping, you look at the cat photos. Okay. I usually know, I don't spend a lot of time on social media because I think it's really kind of a waste of time. I post stuff for the centers. I try to post something if I'm at a center to help the center promote, and some other things. But I know I'm in trouble when I'm looking at the dancing cat videos, and I know like I'm really, you know. So, okay, instances. One was a doctor contradicting what you know was your experience. Yeah, that's why I really try not to spend too much time on social media. I don't find, I mean, there's a lot of garbage there. So, and I feel like it's so busy anyway, it's hard to keep up. So, but that is a way, certainly, I think from posting something, it could qualify as a kind of negative speech thing. Sure. Definitely a waste of time. Okay. All right.
Question?
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, I was just, this has been on my mind all day because you keep talking about the rebirths and rebirths into a higher realm. I was talking to Margot about this. Is rebirth perpetual, or is there an end to it? Where you know, where you know, supposedly you reach a state of nirvana. Is the goal? Because since Buddha's first noble truth is life is suffering, so is the goal not to be reborn? And I wonder, as human beings with our, you know, frailties or whatever, you know, and I'm listening to you, oh, well, you know, will you be reborn, or will you reach that level where you're not? So I guess I'll make my question simple. Can you end the rebirths?
Yes, so you don't end the rebirths ever because the mind always goes on. Like I said, every moment of consciousness will have a subsequent result. It will always go on. And so there will always be rebirths. What happens is as you more highly evolve, hopefully in each rebirth through your practice, then you will eventually hopefully reach nirvana, which is liberation, which is a permanent cessation of all of your suffering. But that's not enlightenment according to this tradition of Buddhism. That's not full enlightenment. That's an enlightenment for the Theravadan tradition, the Buddhism of Sri Lanka and Burma and Thailand, countries like that. The Mahayana tradition, greater vehicle tradition, is about finally reaching enlightenment, full enlightenment, because then you've also subdued the subtle obscurations to omniscience, to being all-knowing. You subdued subtle obscurations. And this is Buddhism of originally China, Korea, Japan, Tibet, Mongolia, Bhutan, countries like that. Vietnam is a Mahayana Buddhist country. And obviously parts of Australia and America, you know, where people practice. There's all kinds of temples all over the world now that are Buddhist, which is great. And so you have a variety. So what would happen is I would expand and become enlightened, and then I can choose my rebirth to come back solely to be of the most benefit to all living beings.
So it doesn't end, because I thought there was an end. That was my impression.
It never ends. Even if you get enlightened, you will still take rebirth. It's really your choice if you take rebirth, but you'll basically be continuing somewhere in some realm again and again and again, but from a very highly realized consciousness that does not experience suffering anymore and is fully enabled to help all living beings every single moment. Like that. So we want to call that a goal. The goal in this tradition is to benefit all living beings. The means to do it is to get fully enlightened. So you might say the end is, well, now I can benefit all living beings perfectly, but it's never going to end because there's always going to be countless living beings for me to help, like that. So it's hard for us to get the notion of no beginning and no end to the mind, to this non-permanent, non-physical experience, the mind, the consciousness. That's a hard concept for us to get from our linear thinking society, like that. So I hope that's helpful.
This guy just spurs me for more questions, but I won't take the time now. Thank you.
Okay, slowly, we can get to that. Now, okay, what I want to do is I'd like to do some Vajrasattva practice, and then we're going to take a short break again. but I want to lead you into what do we do now to purify? What am I supposed to do? And what we do is we purify with something called the 4 opponent powers and some sort of purification practice. Now, I'm giving you ones, obviously, that are from Tibetan Buddhism. And Vajrasattva practice, Vajrasattva is a Sanskrit term of this like holy being. Dorje Sempa in Tibetan is an aspect of the enlightened consciousness. It's like a picture of the Buddha in a different form. Vajrasattva is a crystal light being, and we visualize him either alone, or you can visualize him with a partner if you've had tantric initiation. But I'm going to describe him just alone on his own. Okay. And what we do is we'd like to do purification keeping in mind the 4 opponent powers. So let me give you the 4 opponent powers, and then we're going to do a short Vajrasattva practice that I will share my screen. The 4 opponent powers, and they sometimes are in different orders, but I like to start with the power of regret. The power of regret. I like to think of, and I do this every evening, it comes in some of my practices. I first take a moment to think about what I feel I kind of messed up today. I was off balance. And now a lot of times I'm alone during this quarantine, but I'm often interacting with people on face calls or voice calls as well. And I notice my mind thinking about certain things, and I might say, well, that wasn't a very good thought to have, whatever. I like to think of something concrete that day, that week, something current, if I can. But if you're not really sure, you can think about all the things you've messed up since beginningless time. That's also fine. And what I like to do is really experience a deep sense of regret in my heart, how I've hurt myself due to this activity, how I've hurt someone else, and take a few moments there to experience. When I was doing my Vajrasattva retreat, I had longer to spend, and there were times I got to the point of tears thinking with regret about something. That's a very powerful place, that type of regret. And it's different than guilt, because guilt is a negative cycling of the mind, negative cycling that doesn't add a remedy. It just leaves you there circling negatively. That's not helpful for the mind, but regret takes me into a space that I feel badly, but I know I've got something else to do. And the next opponent power is refuge or reliance. You can remember all of the opponent powers because they all begin with R. So refuge or reliance is I've got Vajrasattva in the space in front of me, and I'm going to describe the visualization when we do it. I have them in the space in front. And I'm from my heart. Now, as a Buddhist, it's easier because I see the value of Vajrasattva, and I'm used to looking at the Buddhist iconography. So I'm familiar. In the beginning, it wasn't that familiar to look at this strange kind of deity. But Vajrasattva is quite beautiful. Beautiful smile on his face. He's seated in the cross-legged posture, and he's draped in beautiful silks and adorned with beautiful jewels. He has one face and 2 arms, so he looks a bit like us. And his hands are crossed at his heart. And his left hand holds a bell. His right hand holds a small little thunderbolt that's called a dorje in Tibetan, or Vajra in Sanskrit. And that represents the diamond-hard, indestructible method of bodhicitta or compassion that we need, the skillful means we need to get enlightened, our method. How do we do it? How do we get enlightened? With the big open heart. The bell in the left hand represents the wisdom realizing emptiness, the view we have to get enlightened, that everything lacks inherent concrete nature. So he holds those in his hands at his heart to remind us of the 2 wings of the bird we need to fly to enlightenment. Okay, our method and our view. Bodhicitta and emptiness, like that. Everything's very symbolic in Tibetan Buddhist iconography. So I visualize him there, and then from my heart, could this be, he's a representation of the omniscient mind, the all-knowing mind, the Buddha. And I feel like I've got some sense of the Buddha's kindness and compassion and insight. So would that be a Reliant? Would that be somebody I could seek support from that could protect me from more suffering? And then we have a short prayer you can join in or recite about refuge in Vajrasattva. Please, I'm basically saying, please help me purify right now. I'm limited, I've messed up some stuff. That's his whole purpose, is to help us purify. Number 3, third opponent power, remedy. The remedy. I'm now going to recite some Vajrasattva mantras. Mantra is a sacred saying. Mantra in Sanskrit means mind protection. So by reciting this sacred saying, I protect my mind from non-virtue, from falling into the unhealthy patterns and habits. I'm going to recite this mantra as best as I can. It's certainly easier once we memorize a mantra, but I'm doing it with a visualization that I will describe, washing away negativities for however long I choose to recite the mantra. Usually with Vajrasattva, we like to recite at least 21 of the long mantra, or you can recite 28 of the short mantra, and I'll explain both of these when we get to them. I recite as much as I can keeping the visualization in mind. And then I come to the fourth opponent power, resolution. Resolution is where I determine, and I make a determination in my mind to refrain from doing whatever negativity I was focused on. So whatever I was first brought up that I had regret for, I'm going to really try for a realistic time period, and that's the key here, a realistic time period that I'll refrain from doing that negativity. So if I say I'll never get angry again, it's unlikely I'm going to keep that. But if I say the next time I see that person that I find really irritating, the first 5 minutes I'm with them, I will refrain from getting angry. If I keep it, in a sense, it creates a new neural pathway in my mind. I've been able to keep that promise to myself, that resolution. Those are the 4 opponent powers. Then I dissolve Vajrasattva, feel the blessing, and dedicate the merit. So the 4 opponent powers is how we do effective purification. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to bring up a short Vajrasattva practice. From the Shantideva prayer book. Okay, can everybody see that? Or let me know if you cannot see it, just unmute and tell me you can't see it. Okay, everybody okay? Okay, this starts with the power of reliance, but we're going to start on page 6 with the power of regret. And I want to just show you on this side, this is Vajrasattva. Isn't he glorious? So just so you have a sense. Now, I prefer to have the hands crossed at the heart. So that photo's not as accurate. Usually the hands are crossed at the heart, but he is holding, it looks like in the left hand here, it looks like it could be a bell. Here is the little thunderbolt right there. And he's a radiant, beautiful crystal being like that. The better that you can think of everything in the nature of light. He sits on a multicolored lotus, which represents renunciation, because a lotus rises out of the swamp untarnished by the mud of the swamp. Just like when we emerge from our suffering and say, enough, I've had enough of the suffering. I have to stop a certain pattern and renounce, give up the unhealthy pattern to become happier. That's true renunciation. Renunciation is not giving your money away. And no, it is when you decide to let go of your suffering. Let go of your suffering. He also, to some degree, is on a moon cushion, this white cushion here. And sometimes people have him on a sun cushion. underneath that. The sun and the moon represent bodhicitta and emptiness. The moon is bodhicitta, our method of developing that good heart of compassion, cherishing others more than ourselves. The sun is how illuminating the wisdom realizing emptiness is, radiating everything, showing us the true nature of everything. So that's what he rests on: renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness, considered the three principal aspects of the path. Our entire philosophy of the Lamrim fits into those three principles. Okay, so you see Vajrasattva, and we're going to focus right now. He's above your crown, and imagine him. He is about 6 inches in height, facing you in the space in front of you, slightly higher than the level of your forehead. But the more you can visualize in the nature of light, like a crystal being. And just feel as if he's really there. If you have another idea of what he could represent to you, that beautiful, you could have a radiant light in front of you that represents all that purifying energy. Okay, we're going to go over here, the power of regret. So I just want you to call up for a moment and just think first for your motivation again. It's always nice to rekindle the motivation. The reason, and just think, the reason I'm doing this practice now to purify is I'm struggling a little bit with some habitual negative tendencies, unhealthy patterns, and I'd like to clean them up. So thank you to Vajrasattva for being there for me. And if you'd like to focus on one of those negative habits or something that happened that you did today with your body, speech, or mind, take a moment and focus on that, experiencing a deep sense of regret. And just think, almost every action I do 24 hours a day is motivated by worldly concern, attachment to the comfort of this life. It's like this from birth to death in this life, and it's been like that for me since beginningless rebirths. So nearly every action I create has been non-virtuous, is the cause of suffering for me. And not only that, but I've broken a lot of vows that I've taken as a Buddhist, and worst of all, have created the heaviest of negative karmas in relation to my teachers, virtuous friends, such as getting angry at them, generating wrong views, disobeying their advice, harming their body. And having these negative imprints on my mind is completely unbearable. It's as if I've swallowed lethal poison. So generate with this regret. Feel the regret. And think, I have to practice the antidote right away. Purifying all this negative karma immediately without a second's delay. Why am I doing this? To help me get enlightened as fast as possible, because so many are suffering. As a Buddha, I'm completely unlimited in how I can help them. So for that purpose, to benefit all living beings, we'll do this Vajrasattva practice and focus again on that regret for whatever activity you'd like to focus on. And over here now, the power of reliance. This is refuge, refuge or reliance. Here's Vajrasattva. And imagine again Vajrasattva in the space in front of you. This is a representation of the Omniscient Mind. Could you please protect me? Do you think the Omniscient Mind would have power to protect us from more suffering? That's really the power underneath refuge. I seek shelter. I seek protection. That's what it means. And if you'd like, feeling that connection to the Vajrasattva in front of you, feel free to join in. We can recite this short refuge prayer on the page in front of you. I forever take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, in all the three vehicles, in the Dakinis, a secret mantra yoga, in the heroes and heroines, in the empowering goddesses and bodhisattvas, but most of all, I take refuge in my holy Guru forever. So again, Guru is spiritual teacher or virtuous friend. Dakinis and heroes and heroines are beings that have mostly reached enlightenment. Bodhisattvas are, in a sense, Buddhist saints. The three vehicles are the Hinayana vehicle of the Buddhism in Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, like that, where you want to reach liberation. The Mahayana vehicle, where I want to get enlightened to benefit all living beings after reaching liberation. And the Vajrayana vehicle, the Tantric vehicle, where I can actualize enlightenment more quickly. Once again, I forever take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in all the three vehicles. In the Dakinis, a secret mantra yoga, that's the Tantric path. In the heroes and heroines, in the empowering goddesses and bodhisattvas, but most of all, I take refuge in my holy Guru forever. And one more time, I forever take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in all the three vehicles. In the Dakinis, a secret mantra yoga, in the heroes and heroines, in the empowering goddesses and bodhisattvas, but most of all, I take refuge in my holy Guru forever. So imagine right now that at Vajrasattva's tiny heart in space in front of you is a little moon disk lying flat. In the center of the moon disk is Vajrasattva's seed syllable, Hung, H-U-N-G, or H-U-M, standing upright in the nature of white light. This is an object of focus, concentration. And around the edge of the moon disk is his 100 syllable mantra. It's a long mantra, standing upright like a strand of radiant pearls standing clockwise. And imagine from the Hung syllable and the mantra garland, light rays stream out from his heart through all the pores of his body, streaming out in all directions, and hooking back all the blessings and realizations of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all the holy beings. And all that light energy, all that enlightened energy comes streaming back right into the center of his heart, fully energizing him. And imagine now that visualization of Vajrasattva in the space in front comes to the crown of your head, facing the same direction as you, about 6 inches in height, on the beautiful lotus, open lotus cushion. And once again, the light and nectar begins to stream from the center of his heart, from the Hung syllable and the mantra garland, filling his entire being, and now pouring out of all the pores of his body and descending down through your crown like a radiant, cascading waterfall of purifying nectar. As we recite his mantra, which is the, this is the power of the remedy now. Okay, here is his mantra, the longer one, right there. And right here, whoops. Oh, I see. Let me do it this way. Okay, here's his short mantra. And it says Om Benza Sattva Hung. Benza is also Vajra. And the reason it's Benza is the Tibetans don't have a V in their language. So they tend to pronounce Vajra as Benza. Both are correct. You can say either, doesn't matter. Either Om Vajra Sattva Hung or Om Benza Sattva Hung. And again, sometimes they don't pronounce the V in Sattva, so they have like Sato Hung. Either is fine. I tend to say Om Vajrasattva Hong, like that. The long mantra is here, is over here. Let me just see where we have, okay. I'm trying to make it bigger. See, this is the longer one. We're going to start with this long mantra. And again, the light rays and nectars are coming down. And we're first going to visualize all the light pouring down, all the negativities we have done with our body are driven out by this nectar coming down through our crown. And it leaves us through all the lower openings of our body until they're completely gone. So that'll be our first visualization. And just try your best. Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sattva Dina Dida Dido Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava. So the SHs are not pronounced. It's more like Supokayo. Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Susame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Muta Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Avunte. And also the essence of, I don't think it has the meaning here, my other book has, the essence of what the mantra means in a sense is this enlightened energy of purification, Vajrasattva. Please do not forsake me. Don't give up on me, and please be here with me to help me purify, to actualize the 5 wisdoms, ha 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 ho, like that. And please do not forsake me, help me to completely purify until I am enlightened. So that's kind of the essence of a lot of the mantras on one level, like that. So let's recite a couple more times right now with the visualization, everything washing down and out through the lower openings of our body until they're completely gone. Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sattva Dino Padida Dido Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Susame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mut Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Avunte. Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sattva Dino Padida Dido Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Susame Sitam Shriyam Guruhum Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Muta Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Avunte. Please continue at your own pace with this visualization, or feel free to recite Om Vajrasattva Hong, Om Vajrasattva Hong. And imagine now Just feel you've completely purified all the negativities you've done with your body, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, or at least feel you've purified something. And the light and nectar continues to come down through your crown from Vajrasattva's heart, from all the pores of his body. Again, this radiant waterfall coming down, purifying, but now it washes down and then all the way back up comes cycling all the negativities you've done with your speech, like overflowing that dirt coming over the rim of the water glass. And imagine it coming out all the upper openings of your body until they're completely gone. And this purifies negativities we've done with our speech, lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, gossip. Om Vajra Sarva Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sarva Dino Padida Dito Me Baba Sutokaya Me Baba Supokaya Me Baba Anurakta Me Baba Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Susame Sitam Shriyam Guru Hom Ha 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 ho Bhagava Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mut Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sarva Ahum Pe. Please continue on your own at your own pace. And imagine all those negativities of speech greatly, greatly diminished or purified. And the light and nectar continues to descend from Vajrasattva over top your crown, from all the pores of his body, down through your crown, and now going directly to your heart center. So not necessarily the organ, the heart, the core. Your core, purifying all negativities you've done with your mind. Covetousness, harmful intent, holding wrong views, all the negative thoughts, all the judgmental thoughts, all of that being washed away as if we turn the light on. So that constricted knot of that self-cherishing and those negativities of mind are completely eliminated. Just feel they're completely gone. Om Vajra Sarva Samaya Manubalaya Vajra Sarva Dino Padida Dito Me Baba Sutokaya Me Baba Supokaya Me Baba Anurakto Me Baba Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Susame Sitam Shriyam Guru Hom Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Muta Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahum Pe. Please continue at your own pace. So imagine these negativities we've done with our mind, again, greatly diminished or washed away. And we're going to go to the fourth opponent power, the power of restraint. Now, we've done so much of a remedy. You can do as much as you like. Again, generally, 21. So 7 of each of the 3 visualizations we just did for 21 mantras, if you can, or 28 of the short mantra, like that, with rotating through the visualizations. And just think in front of Vajrasattva over your crown. Again, be realistic to think, I will refrain from committing whatever negativity I was regretting for a realistic time period. Just set that time period of what you think is realistic. And Vajrasattva is very, very pleased with our practice and says, child of the lineage, all your negativities, all your broken vows, degenerated vows are now all completely purified. Just have some faith. You have definitely purified something. That's a very powerful part of the practice, to have faith. You've definitely done something. At least you've done your best. You've tried. It doesn't mean we're necessarily going to see a result immediately, but you just keep chipping away. And imagine now Vajrasattva over top your crown, along with the beautiful radiant lotus on which he sits, the moon disk at his heart, the hung syllable, the mantra garland, all dissolves from the edges of the visualization into a radiant drop of light, crystal drop of light that melts into your crown. Just feel the blessings right now of Vajrasattva's holy body, holy speech, and holy mind. Whatever understanding you have of emptiness, please reflect on that now. In emptiness, there is no I, creator of negative karma. There is no action of creating negative karma. There is no negative karma created. And as a brief conclusion, we're going to read this dedication. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of Guru Vajrasattva and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. We're going to take a 10-minute break. And I'd just like you to, in the break time, just sit with that feeling that you've purified something, some reflection on the Vajrasattva practice if it's new to you. And think of any questions you have left, things like that. And we'll come back for a last half hour before we break. Thank you.
Quick question.
Yes.
Just the 4 opponent powers, I have regret, refuge, remedy, and resolution. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Because I thought you said there was a 4th one you were going to go into, and I said maybe is that number 5? Okay, that's as long as
right there. Those are the 4. Yep.
okay. Thank you.
So for I think Sunny, back on advice to visualize better. Yeah, Sunny, great. This is a tough one for people, and it's some sort of karmic setup. Some people visualize really well from the beginning, some difficult. And I would just recommend to continue to do purification practices. Focused, to say, I really want to visualize better. The other thing I advise some people to do is to start with something simple. You know, visualize, if you want to practice visualization, start with something simple like an apple or something you're very, very familiar with that you feel you can visualize, and exercise with that a little bit once in a while. Because the Buddhist images initially for us, they're very foreign, and it takes us a while to get used to seeing them. But again, it's about practice. So it means if you're doing something regularly over and over and over, it does make a train of familiarity in your mind. But we have to be patient with that process. Okay, I don't know what it means, squeaky toy upon your forehead. Okay, so I do want to mention, please, that please be gentle with yourself in this process. Okay, purification. You're not going to clean up everything. Your life is not going to change in 2 days of doing Vajrasattva practice. Okay, you can contact Shanti Deva for the Vajrasattva practice. You could also get a little practice booklet. It's this big. It's your pocket Vajrasattva for free from the Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive. You could go to lywa.org and ask them to send you a little Vajrasattva booklet. And if you want, make a donation for the shipping or whatever, or make a donation to them is great. lywa.org is part of our organization, and they have these little pocket Vajrasattva guides that can take you through the practice. So that's one of your purification practices. I would also mention, you go through some of these other things that we can do that help. But what I wanted to mention is please be gentle with yourself, because we do mess up, but now we have something we can do, which is great. We're not just left with, I'm like this forever, but it does take time. So you need to have the patience with yourself in the process. I do find my spiritual practice a lot is, again, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I'm making some strides. I'm continuing to move forward with some progress, but occasionally I mess up. Okay, and then I take a step back, and then I have a look around and assess what happened. You know, I learn more about myself. One example I give is I know when I'm at a center, and normally I'm traveling about half the year to centers, and with the quarantine, I'm home now teaching. But when I'm traveling a lot, it's tiring, especially as I get older. And when I'm at centers, I'm doing, often it's at least 2 sessions a day. That's a minimum of 4 hours, but some centers have me teaching 5, 6, 7 hours a day. If I'm leading a retreat or something like that, it can be much more, okay? So, and sometimes the Tibetan teachers will actually say they only teach 4 hours a day. So it can be really tiring, and then people want to meet with me around that time. So I happen to know now, knowing myself well enough, when I get really tired, I need to take some space to myself, right? Or I feel like I'm going to get cranky and be agitated. So I already know that about myself. So I know when to just stop and explain in a very nice way to people, I'm really sorry, but I actually do have a lot of practice on my own, and I need a little bit of a break right now by myself. And nobody ever has a problem with that. So it's getting to know yourself better before you're going to slip and make a mistake and fall flat on your face. Get skillful to take a break and know what you need to renew, to nurture yourself. And then if we can keep the Vajrasattva practice going every night, I'm at least doing the best I can right now, right? And if you have time to study more, to maybe do some retreat in the future, that would be incredibly beneficial as well.
Ben Amy, I noticed early Elizabeth had a question.
Oh,
She had a hand up.
yeah, thank you. Just very quickly, when we say virtuous friends, do we mean the Sangha? It's three short questions. Virtuous friends, do we mean the Sangha? And then harming their holy bodies. So in what way? And then having non-virtuous thoughts, what might those be?
Virtuous friend is the guru, is your spiritual
Oh,
teacher.
guru, okay.
Yep. and harming their holy bodies any way you can think of doing it. Drawing blood from a Buddha, they say, or drawing blood from a holy being is really heavy karma. Drawing blood with intent to harm.
Okay.
But there's many ways you can harm somebody's body. And then what was the third one, Elizabeth?
Having non-virtuous thoughts. I mean, what might those be?
I mean, I'm sure you can imagine non-virtuous thoughts. We just
Yes,
mentioned.
sure. I just thought maybe it was more specific. It seems a bit general. I don't know.
And we
Okay.
an amazing amount of non-virtuous thoughts.
Okay. Okay.
It could be, yeah, there's nothing specific to that. It's just all those non-virtuous thoughts that come sweeping through at times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I wanted to mention also some additional practices. If people are like, how do I clean things up? But again, this is about taking responsibility. Okay. And I'm going to add in a gentle way, because Westerners are really hard on themselves. I know we're not all Westerners here, but in general, you know, the karma class is hard because people hear it and they go, oh my God, I'm horrible. We immediately as Westerners go to, I'm horrible. So all I'm saying is take a deep breath. We are doing the best we can. If you know you're not doing the best you can, try to step it up a little bit. Figure out what negative pattern am I doing every week that I could kind of let go of. And maybe I can just borrow a half an hour of that activity and put a half an hour of that into some practice that's going to make me feel better. Because usually most people I know, after they're doing some sort of practice, we have a lot of different meditations, they generally say they feel better. They're more uplifted, they have more energy, they're really happy they did it. So why don't we do it more? Just because of habit. Just have it. It's normal. Like that. So what I'd recommend is a gentle approach, like now you have the Vajrasattva idea, okay? Can you try to do a little bit in the evening? Can you get the practice first of all? I'm sure it's online. I'm sure you can download it online really easily for free, right? So can I get that practice and can I do it? There's also some things on my website. I think I'm teaching the practice in France. You can go to the website or the YouTube page. It's connected there. I'll just give you my website. Most of you have it, I think. And you can find different teachings, audio, video, and all. And there will be one from France that's translated. So I'm teaching in English, so you can hear the English. They translate into French about the Vajrasattva practice that you could find on the website. I don't have the link right now. And there's things of, you could read sutras is another way of purifying. You could meditate on emptiness or learn how to do that. Some people make images of Buddhas making tsatsas, making offerings to centers, making offerings to people like that. The 35 Buddhas, prostrations to them. There's many different practices we do slowly to learn them. But the first step we want to take right now is taking responsibility for our mind. Is just noting when I mess up and when I know I'm not really manifesting myself in the best way right now. What's going on for me? Actually, I realize I'm really tired. I need a rest, or I felt very stressed this week, or this person intimidates me a little bit, or I'm feeling really insecure in this situation. There's many reasons. Take a step back, do a little assessment, take a deep breath, take another deep breath, and then roll it back into your practice, meaning my sitting practice, my time to sit and be still with myself. I don't care if it's 5 minutes a day for you, is a really genuinely precious time for me to come back and say, wow, what happened today? It didn't go well today. What happened? Or to come back on another day and say, wow, I was there on the subway or walking down the street and this person was really annoying me, or I saw this post on social media and then I realized I took a deep breath and I didn't get negatively involved with it and I let it go, turned it off and went back to the practice. Or I decided not to stream that Netflix thing so much or to get involved in that wasteful activity as much and found picked up that Dharma book I've wanted to read for a long time. How great. Celebrate that. Okay. And then when things get hard again, go back and assess, have a little look, do some breathing meditation if you're beginning. If you're already at this for a while, there's other meditations we can do that are super helpful. You can find some on my website, The Clarity of Consciousness, getting a sense of that clear nature that is really one aspect of your mind, not clutter and busyness and distraction. Those are not actually qualities of your mind. Those are not qualities of your mind, but clarity is a quality of your mind. Imagine that. Imagine getting more in touch with the clear aspect of your mind. That's fantastic. That helps to layer calm underneath everything I'm doing when I can remind myself of the true nature of my consciousness, that it's clear and it's knowing. It's clear and aware. That's my mind. According to Tibetan Buddhism, that is the true nature and the two true characteristics of your mind. Okay, I'm going to close there.